Welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU and Big 12. And tonight we are, of course, reacting to the Alamo Bowl, BYU's blowout win over Colorado, and you wrap up this season on a high note. And so, as we get started here, just want to let you know after these games, we love doing these live reactions so that you can join us, be part of the conversation. So please join us in the chat. Let us know your thoughts on the game and your reactions, and join the conversation. And if you're on here, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel as we continue to put out content throughout the basketball season, the off season, and cover all that. So let's just get into it. What a way for BYU to end its season on a high note. It was obviously we had high aspirations for quite a while throughout the season. Didn't quite end how we were hoping, and really got about as good a matchup as we could have asked for in Colorado for a bowl game outside of the playoff. Yes, it's a conference opponent, but didn't really feel like a conference opponent. We haven't played yet, haven't played since I believe it was 89, but it's been a very long time. And what a high profile game. Got lots of, it'll be interesting to see how the ratings were on this game. We know the Colorado effect, although it was a blowout, so it'll be interesting to see. But what a chance for BYU to make a statement. It's 11th statement, and to end the season on a high note, on a very, on a high profile game, and really use this as a launching pad going into next season. So as we get going here, there's a lot of different things I want to talk about, a lot of some common themes as we got started throughout, or that have came up during the game. But let me know in the comments where you want to start with this, and what stood out to you. What really was what does this game mean for BYU and for this season? Where does that leave this season within all of BYU seasons? How does this stack up with some of the others? Obviously, falling short of where we thought we could get, but definitely having a very an amazing season nonetheless. And also what you thought of the game. What allowed BYU to get off to the strong start that they did after the initial drive, and how were they able just to so dominantly handle Colorado? So be interested to get your thoughts on that, but let's jump into that. So first off, and we'll do a follow-up video where we kind of wrap up the season and do some superlatives throughout the season, and kind of talk about the legacy that this team will leave. But I do just want to say, after watching this game, obviously it is awesome to win, and awesome to win in such dominant fashion. The only thing about it is it just kind of is a reminder of the potential that this team had, and to kind of makes you wonder again, man, what if BYU having this type of game was able to put together a complete game like this in a playoff game, and what that would have meant. But it didn't happen, and what a way for BYU to rally together and come out here and perform big on this stage. And it was hilarious because the announcers, and everyone's commenting on this on Twitter, but they clearly came in ready to talk about Colorado all game, talk about the big names, Prime, Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, the Heisman winner, and clearly we're not prepared to talk about BYU as much as they deserved, especially in a blowout win. And in fairness, I did not think that BYU was going to have a blowout win. But they certainly, and the best part was when they said, we don't want to talk about BYU all night, even though they deserve it, which is hilarious because it did not feel like they were talking about BYU much at all. They were really kind of grasping at straws there after a while, because they just had so much focus on Colorado. So, but we knew it was going to be this way. And so, we can, I'll live with that, because how good is it to go in there and just completely defy expectations of what everybody thought this was going to be, and just completely turn it upside down and steal the spotlight. So really satisfying win for BYU. What a way to end this season, and to not come up short and let kind of a disappointing ending to the season, like in 2020, come out and not be as prepared as you should be. So I loved it. I really did not expect we were going to have another Kansas State type game here in this bowl game. All right. So Spencer Duncan, what's up, man? How's it going? BYU defense is amazing. I'm so glad the team could come back and play so well, even with the late season losses. Yeah, as I was just saying, like, they definitely, rallied, and they came together and they took this game seriously. And in my Colorado preview, we had David Talks Buffs on the show to preview Colorado, and he'd, talking about the strengths and weaknesses of the team. But I was asking him, I said, made the analogy to in being in college and having one of those final exams when you can only help your grade. If you do poorly, it won't hurt your grade, but if you do well, it can, bring your grade up. And I felt like that's kind of what these bowl games are. Like, yeah, you can help yourself, but can you really be motivated the same way when there's not as much at stake and on the line? And asking him how Colorado was doing it, and just hearing him talk about it, and just knowing the fact that they were coming out to play, like they were going to play their star players, and they talked about it. They played the whole game. And it was really impressive that they came out there and took that seriously. And so I did not expect to see Colorado fall as flat as they did. Now, one thing about this is I've been seeing a lot of people come on there and calling Colorado out, as a lot of them Boise State fans or just Colorado haters or whatever. And you can count me amongst the Colorado haters. So I'm not saying that disparagingly so much, but just people using that to call Colorado clowns and frauds. But nobody's giving BYU, outside of BYU fans, credit. But this is not the first time BYU's done this season to a good team. So BYU deserves the credit. I mean, they played a complete game. And one of the things in that preview that David talked about was weakness on special teams. And I was like, oh, well, good, because that's where BYU's done well. And boy, did BYU, obviously the defense was just dominant. They really couldn't get going. I mean, they obviously had a few moments. There was that touchdown pass and catch to Travis Hunter. I mean, you just saw in that play, it's like, oh yeah, that's why he's so good. That's why he gets all the attention that he does, is because of the way he moves. I mean, just defenders just not able to tackle him. But I mean, BYU shut him down. And as we'll get into BYU's offense here in a moment, but as head scratching as the offense can be at times, I mean, it was still a dominant game from BYU, and that's just kind of goes to show how well they did on defense and special teams. All right, 1-2 says, by the end of the postseason, BYU will be one of the only about 8 teams with 2 or fewer losses. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm really curious to see how, and there's still a lot of action to happen, but how this bowl game could help BYU in the rankings. Not that it means that much this year, but as we know that how the season ends is going to impact preseason rankings, which anchors the conversation about teams throughout the whole next postseason. So a lot of people talked about this as being this bowl game, even though not really that much is at stake, is a way to set up your next season. And it really is. And so, yeah, I would love to see BYU get some respect now, winning, and not just, beating Colorado, but beating them big should hopefully get them some respect. Now, I know some other games like Miami losing by 1 to Iowa State when Cam Ward didn't even play the second half. So it'll be interesting to see how the committee ranks these teams. And then we still have several teams, ahead of BYU that haven't played yet, like Alabama or some others. But yeah, absolutely. It'll what a way to make the statement. And 1-2 says, do you expect BYU to move up in the final postseason rankings? Okay, sorry, I was just answering this. And or be ranked preseason for 2025. So move up, yes, I would expect BYU to move up. How much? I don't know yet. The committee hasn't really liked BYU a lot. I would think that they'll be top 15, but I don't think they're getting in top 10 or whatever. There's just too many opportunities for other teams ahead of them to continue to also earn those and keep those spots. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'll be interested to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments where you think BYU will be ranked after this season. Good question, though. Spencer, again, says they were so focused on Colorado, they said several things that showed they knew nothing about BYU. They said our 2 losses were in December. They said we use Gary Bohannon a lot. Yeah, yeah, they clearly did not know. I saw a couple tweets or pointing out. I was like, so asking the announcers, so who's Colorado playing tonight? I'm not sure they were prepared for that at all, which is, I guess not completely surprising, but come on. I mean, it wasn't even Joe Klatt calling this game. This was, ESPN loves, the headliners and are going to milk that for all it's worth. But BYU by its own right does pretty well with the rankings. Was ranked higher than Colorado. So just to get overlooked, and on top of that, what else did they say? They well, just anytime they're talking about the draft, and maybe they did. I actually watched a lot of the first half muted while I had kids up and everything still, so I don't know how the first half went, but whenever they're talking about the draft, they're just talking about Colorado players, who obviously deserves to be in that conversation considering where they're going to be drafted, but not talking about BYU's draft prospects in the same way, which is a big deal. I mean, they should be highlighting that some of these guys out there for BYU are very talented. And Bohannon, man, I was caught off guard, so I missed when he went in the game. I noticed he was there on the play. Again, I was watching it muted when he made the pass, and so that was the first play I noticed that it was Bohannon, and made that pass and got the interception, which was unfortunate. I was happy they did use him. I was hoping that they would use Bohannon in some packages tonight. I was really wanted to see a little bit throughout the season. I thought they could have done that against Houston, especially when BYU was pulling away a little bit, just to get him in there and get him some reps. And also could have been useful just because of, the trick plays, like they pulled off. It wasn't successful, but not a lot of our passing was super successful tonight. So you got to give Colorado credit for that. Although it just goes to show that, they were able to defend the pass pretty well, really well. But yet BYU still just completely dominated. So anyway, I got totally off topic from what your question was, but made me think of a couple things I thought of during the game. 1-2 again says, which of the playoff teams do you think BYU would have rolled? Oh, I mean, it's hard to say. I didn't think they were going to roll Colorado. I mean, as much as I like BYU, I thought BYU could win by, multiple possessions, but I didn't, think that was a sure thing or that they would necessarily roll Colorado. I don't know. I like BYU's chances against a lot of those teams. I mean, Indiana, they didn't really play anyone all season, but they had a great offense nonetheless. Again, not playing anybody. But I don't know. I like BYU's chances against most of the teams in the playoff. Even some of the best teams, not saying necessarily BYU would win, but I think BYU would have a chance to win against any of the teams. But let me know, who do you think BYU would roll? I mean, I'd like to see BYU play Arizona State again. I think in a second game, it could be very different. The time, when, Arizona State caught BYU, things were lining up. They were peaking. BYU was struggling. and it was still a close game. So I don't know. I'm not saying BYU would roll them, but just trying to think who else is in there. Notre Dame did look really good, so it's hard to say. Earlier in the season, I would have said possibly them. So I don't know, but I'd like BYU's chances. And even if BYU hadn't, got into the playoffs and didn't even win a game, I wouldn't have even cared. You get to the playoffs, and that would have been miraculous. So would have been awesome. So all right. Pink Floyd 1173 says, you guys played a hell of a game. Respect. Thank you. I'm curious who your team is. If you're a Colorado guy, if so, thanks for joining us. Be curious to get your perspective on, and any Colorado fans out there, your perspective on what happened and why BYU was able to have the success they did tonight against Colorado. How are they able to just so dominantly shut Colorado down? Because that was a tough one. So, all right. So let's see here. Oh boy, I want to pronounce your name. Lopa Nusilla. Hopefully I got that. Love BYU for life, win or lose. Thank you for commenting. Thanks for watching. Yeah, absolutely. You got to love BYU no matter what. And this was a special season, and what a way to go out. All right. Also saying BYU would have killed in the playoffs. The committee knew it. You think they were afraid of BYU, and that's why they didn't put them in? Maybe, man. There's just so much bias, and there's so much politicking and everything going on behind the scenes. I think you just absolutely need to get the committee out of it. I know it seems crazy after we finally got rid of the BCS to say, hey, we need something more like the BCS system for ranking. My problem with the BCS is it still includes the human polls in there, which we already talked about how biased those are. So, but I think you could configure some sort of composite of various different analytics out there. There are so many, not necessarily saying you use all of them, but you could find some of the best, put them together, create a quad system like you have in basketball, and put it together. Because I think with that, BYU would have been in the playoff as an at-large. And even if they didn't, then you can't really complain, because you say, hey, you know what? These other teams scored higher. We can see how, and we know why. And, it wasn't just because of some committee. So, I'm with you, though. I think BYU could have done great. The way they're peaking now, they had time to prep, rest, and everything. I think, honestly, maybe the season was catching up to BYU, but there's no question that they came out ready to play in this game. And again, I think Colorado came out ready to play as well. They wouldn't have been playing those guys if they hadn't taken this game seriously, which makes this even more impressive, because sometimes teams in bowl games, maybe don't take it seriously or whatever. I mean, we see all kinds of blowouts in bowl games all the time, in the playoffs too, which is another story we'll get to about this first round. But even when it was a 14 playoff, we saw all kinds of blowouts between really good teams. So it can happen, but maybe one team just preps better or whatever. But BYU is certainly ready for this one. Give that to the coaching fans or coaching staff. Sorry. Pink Floyd 1173 says, I'm an OU fan, dude. We have many issues. Well, that is true. Had a tough loss there against Navy, but thank you for joining. Appreciate it. I love all Big 12 fans love covering all the Big 12. We love being in the Big 12. I know OU's not in the Big 12 anymore, but just college football in general. Okay. We've got a buff suck. Colorado needs more clicks from Dan Lanning. Okay. Let's see here. Do you believe? What do you mean? Let me know, and I'll try my best to answer that. Coming back to the committee, the stupid playoff committee took away national champ from BYU. Yeah, I'm not going to go so far that I think BYU would have won it all. But again, I don't think there's a game that BYU couldn't have won, didn't have the potential to go in and beat any of those teams. And so again, it's about having that chance to go and play it out. which sucks because you have teams like Indiana, like we talked about, who didn't play anybody and got in. I mean, the Big Ten has a total of 4 good teams out of who they have like 18, and they have 4 good teams, and all 4 of them made it in. It's just ridiculous. So, anyway, Pink Floyd again. Colorado thought they were just going to roll over you guys. Yeah, and so did ESPN and apparently everybody else. I mean, the line was only a 3-point, they're only a 3-point favorite. So, but yeah, everybody thought Colorado, and, it's like Kalani Sitake says, they don't know, but they're about to find out. So, Darren T, BYU pulled, going to keep this family friendly so I can keep my status with YouTube here, but bullied the O-line, and y'all think they could have done well in the playoffs. Okay, well, I was trying to make sense of this. Yeah, I do think they could have, but let's see here. Coug's Corner. Oh, wow. We got big time here. Coug's, thanks for joining us. Great win for the Cougs. Yeah. Appreciate you hopping on, and thanks for the shout out, man. Yeah, it was a great win, and it was a good game for, well, it was great for BYU. I don't know if it was ended up being the ending that was most ideal for the Big 12, but again, BYU being ranked higher, it can help them continue to move up in the rankings and get a couple teams in the top 15. I don't know if ISU will make it or not after their win. Let's see. Buff Suck. Hunter needs to return the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, I'm curious what people think about his performance. I mean, again, he had that touchdown pass where he was just smooth. He just kind of he looked really good. And in that moment, you see, where that talent is. I don't know. I mean, they did lock down our passing game today. I don't know how much of that is on Hunter, but yeah, I mean, we only had, out of our 2 top receivers, we had one available in the first half, and then he went down, and Chase Roberts, and then Darius Lassiter came back, and he made an instant impact. Kind of went away from him as the game went on, but maybe because we were running it more. But there were a few plays there where it's almost like they didn't know who Darius Lassiter was and didn't scout him or something. So, but yeah, I'd be curious to know what you guys think about his performance tonight, and how BYU was able to kind of shut that down a little bit. I'm guessing a lot of people on here are not Hunter fans. A lot of people wanted Genty, and I kind of agree. But he won it, and BYU kind of made him a non-factor for the most part. Okay, you answered this to our comment earlier. Top 10. You think that BYU will be in top 10? I sure hope so. I doubt they get that kind of love, but with a statement like this, I don't know. Hey, it's not that I don't think BYU deserves it. It's that I don't think that I don't have a lot of faith in the committee that they get top 10. But hey, if things play out right, they might not be able to avoid it. So let's see. Darren T again. Hunter had 4 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown while playing defense. He earned the Heisman. That's a great argument. I mean, I know everybody says snaps aren't a stat, but it is still impressive. You can't deny that. And I did. I thought he looked good. I'm trying to think. There was a couple other moments, even on defense. I can't remember the plays now, but I thought he looked good. But it wasn't enough. Again, he was only one guy, so. BYU put a lot of pressure on Sanders, and I mean, he was getting sacked. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Colorado gives up a lot of sacks typically. So I thought that was good. I think we definitely had them confused. I think gave them some different looks up there. So yeah, it was not really Hunter's fault per se. Thanks for sharing that. I hadn't dug in too deep here on all the stats. Trying to see. I don't have the defensive stats in front of me, but James Anderson says BYU should have been in the playoffs. James, I mean, you're preaching to the choir here, but I appreciate you commenting that because it doesn't get old. I think the committee's going to have to go back and look at that. There's, especially with all the pressure of how poorly those first round games went. But you know, I don't want to defend those teams because I think BYU should have been in over several of them, or at least had just as strong a case, and BYU wasn't even in the conversation. But like I said before, blowouts happen all the time, even in that 4-team playoff against four, really good teams. And they just happen. And so just because a team gets blown out doesn't necessarily mean that they didn't deserve to be there. Now, again, I do think BYU deserved to be there. These are two separate conversations. I just think everyone's saying, and again, I don't want to defend the committee either, but just because a team gets blown out does not mean that they didn't deserve to be there. But I also think the committee got a lot of it wrong. So both are kind of true for me at the same time. All right. 1-2 is back in the chat with BYU freshman Tommy Prasis comes up with an open field tackle on Heisman Trophy winner Travis Hunter to get the third down stop. Yeah, Prasis had himself a game because that was, him that had that big time hit that led to the interception, I believe, right? It was, a lot of guys were out there. I was bummed to see Crew Wakely in the transfer portal, as I think most BYU fans were. I think so far that was the one that really hurt out of the guys in the portal. Now I don't know what was behind that, if that was the coaches saying, hey, we don't have a spot for you, or if he's just wanted to look elsewhere or what. Doesn't matter. But I mean, the truth is BYU's got a ton of dudes and the future is really bright there. So, I mean, defense is just lights out and tons of young guys there. Tommy Prasis, one of them. Kuz's Corner, good day for Big 12 overall. CU, still a good team. Yeah, there's no doubt. BYU is a good team. People saying they're clowns and frauds, I don't think is fair to them, and I don't think it's fair to BYU. I think BYU earned this, and it's not the first time we've done it this season. So, I'm absolutely with you, Kuz, and happy to see the Big 12 do well. On the same note, SEC has struggled a bit. Obviously, in the playoff, they've done well, but those were first-round matchups that should have been an advantage to their teams. We'll see how this next round goes, but their other games not going quite as well, although Texas Tech did lose to Arkansas, which was painful, but the ACC not looking, things aren't going so well for them. So, all right. Let's see here. We got Buff Suck again. Ding Dong Sanders said BYU dumped last game to keep the Buffs out of the playoffs. I did not hear that. I think that's a dumb comment, but they probably should have won a game or two more, just as BYU should have. Danny Adams, what do you think of playing Bohannon? What did you I like that they got him in there, gave him some reps. I mean, the guy came here, took a chance on himself. Maybe he didn't have any better offers, but from all accounts, they said it was a close one in preseason. So, the QB battle between Bohannon and Retzlaff, and obviously Retzlaff solidified his role as the starter, which I was glad about because we've got Retzlaff for another year. But I still, want to see a little more from Bohannon. He's got some something left to give. Unfortunately, did not go so well for him, but it also helped that BYU had the lead. Now, if this were a tighter game, would we have seen him in there? I don't know. I think they did have some packages. I think they really did, like that trick play. I think they had that really planned, get people bite on the run when he's in and then do a trick play and pass it. It just didn't go well, unfortunately. But I'm glad he got some time, especially because BYU still got the big time win. I would have liked to have seen him earlier in the season in some other games. But like I said, Jake solidified his spot. So, all right, Kuz, ISU's win. Wait, it looked like ISIS for a second. I think Iowa State wins and West Virginia poaches a coach from an SEC school. I missed that one. Which coach is that? And hopefully West Virginia gets things together quickly here, because I know they're, with all the changing, it's tough with the transfer portal and guys jumping, and you got to act fast or you could lose a lot of talent. But curious how Rich Rod does this time around, and see, if he's going to be able to adjust to this modern era. Obviously, he's doing it in his current stop is a very different situation than being in P4 football. So, and there you did correct yourself to ISU in the comments. Sorry, I missed that. So anyway, yeah, I want to see all Big 12 teams do well, and it both in the bowl season and in this off season, and just see this conference continue to improve. It has been so much fun to be part of it and watch BYU just be in a conference again and have these meaningful games late in the season, that your season doesn't just completely over after one loss. And it's going to be fun as long as we have Prime in the conference. It was a fun game. Glad. Again, I hate that the Big 12 had to have two of its top teams play each other, because it's two opportunities we could have had to match up against other conferences and show what we're made of, especially with some of our better performing teams. But what a matchup it was for BYU, and it's fun to kind of, even though this wasn't a conference game per se, to have an additional matchup with a conference opponent and kind of start solidifying those new rivalries and things. So, trying to think where I was going with that, but just that I think it'll be interesting to see if Prime sticks around and for how long he sticks around. But as long as he does, he's certainly good for the conference. I'm bummed though. We only play Colorado. We play them next year and then not again for 2 years back in Provo. So it's kind of weird that two teams so close geographically and having been in a conference, decades ago together, have played so sparingly over the last several decades. So anyway, man, what a win. I'm still just trying to make sense of it all. I talked about special teams earlier, and I want to get into this a little bit more, because I think I got my train of thought went elsewhere. But the special teams, we have the plays that we're going to remember, like Parker Kingston running it back for a touchdown. And look, I've already forgot here just a little bit later. But, there were so many big-time plays. Oh, the onside kick. But if you're talking about all of special teams, Colorado, they continued to try to run out the kickoffs from their own end zone. And they continually started, I think fewer than 20 yards at the, behind the 20-yard line on many, many possessions. I don't know what their average starting field position was. Whereas as they're talking about, BYU was, I feel like around the 40, to 50 and almost every single possession there for a while. So BYU was really dominating that. And so it wasn't, yes, there's the flashy plays that we'll remember, but it was really just, and then with Will Ferrin, he can just kick. He doesn't get enough love. He gets a lot of love, and it still doesn't feel like it's enough, just because he's just been that solid. So that guy's for real. He's a legit kicker. It feels really good to have him there. You feel confident, especially because BYU really struggles to score in the red zone. I think it was Joe Wheat on Twitter say, man, BYU would be national champions if they could just score in the red zone. And it kind of feels true, because, think about this. If BYU, how many trips they had into the red zone a couple times with interceptions and, coming up empty and still winning as big as they did. This was not a perfect game with the offense. A lot of people still very upset with A-Rod. This is going to continue. And saying he was getting too cute with some of the plays. Bowl games are kind of for that time to bust out a lot of those trick plays and things. Maybe they got too cute, but the one with with Parker Kingston. That was a catchable ball. Was it perfect? No, but I mean, that play was run, I think, to perfection because he just waited and waited and waited and let those defenders commit to him to pull them all in. And that was not on him. So some of this was execution, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see how. BYU has one of the best seasons in history. Be curious to know what you guys think. Where this season ranks in all of BYU seasons. Is it top 5, just outside? Definitely top 10. Is it? I'd have to go through and think about it because many of those other top seasons are before I was either born or before I have any memory of it. So have to go in and really weigh that. But yeah, to see people are still upset with A-Rod. I don't think there's any way he gets fired in this offseason just because of the success BYU has had. That doesn't mean that he shouldn't, but all right. I'm sorry. I missed that. We had some other comments come in as I was monologuing here. Kuz, Hunter is a great player. He can't play O-line. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's a complete team game, and it felt like even having an impact, like he certainly did, but it didn't feel like I don't know. It was kind of a quiet impact that he had, and it was a quiet game for him. But let's see. Junk time stats for Hunter. He played like crying bee against all ranked teams. Yeah, again, I'd have to go back and look at that. I mean, how much of that was at the end in junk time? I mean, a lot of that second half was junk time. But they're still out there. I got to give him credit. Like he really wanted to be out there. I did think it was funny though when they're talking about the draft and something, they'll say, look at with players and how they act on the field and their leadership. And just as, the camera pans in on Shedeur Sanders on the sideline with a towel over his head, which, looking a little bit sulky, but honestly, yeah, he should be frustrated. Any of us would be. So maybe that's not fair to him, but I did think that was just kind of funny timing because I didn't think it was the best look, but he, obviously should be frustrated. The game did not go like they wanted, but let's see. Catching up here, and we'll start wrapping up here. We got 1-2 says, I think BYU versus Colorado was strategic to prevent them from playing Big Ten SEC and exposing the lie of a weak Big 12. I mean, it really could be. I mean, we know it was the contract with the Pac-12 and that whole tie-in, and I don't know exactly how all that works, but so Colorado, by the end of the season, it was pretty much locked into that. And then, they selected BYU over Iowa State. I don't blame them. I don't think this went the way they wanted, but it got the hype that they were looking for. But yeah, obviously the Big Ten and SEC do not want to give any sort of credence to the other conferences and allow them to get any kind of momentum. And so this was kind of a best case scenario for them, I guess, in that regard. So yeah, it's a real bummer. Not even getting that chance. And then again, the Big Ten with only 4, quality teams in the entire conference, and all 4 of them get into the playoff is a joke. I think Big 12 was definitely deserving of another spot, and I think that spot, should have been BYU. Roy Wall says, "Hi, Roy. Thanks for joining." He says BYU won a line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. The best athletes on the field were wearing white despite the hype. BYU kept Sanders in the pocket for most part, which was the difference. Yeah, I mean, he definitely, you're right. I mean, BYU, they look dominant out there. And I just don't know if it's just wanting it more, better preparation, better scheme, or, BYU is just, better from top to bottom. But all those things seem to be true. I mean, they would get, those little dump off plays and start with the pass and kind of make a run for it. And it looked like they were going to get an easy first down. And BYU would and sometimes they did, but BYU just close in on them time and again and just keep them. And they just could not really get any momentum. It was awesome. It really was. It was quite the performance from BYU. And with the run game, something that we've kind of struggled with a bit this season, especially with the passing game being, not as effective as it has been throughout the season. That run game BYU was on point, and you got to feel good about that group of running backs we have back there. All three. You got obviously. Why am I blanking here on the spot? LJ Martin, but then you've also got Moa and Haonga. All three of those guys, I feel really good about. The future with them at running back. So as long as we can continue to improve with the O-line, I feel really good about that. Appreciate the comment, Roy. I agree with that. BYU definitely dominated in many regards, and Sanders Shedeur, he did show flashes. Like it was, you did not want to see him get out in the open, but again, how many times did he get sacked? And I don't think Colorado generally gives up a lot. So give a lot of credit to BYU. And Roy says he also agree with Kuz. Hunter is a great player. Oh yeah. I hope I didn't suggest otherwise. I do think he's a great player. I still am a little mixed on whether he should have won the Heisman, but I think there's a strong case for, I think there are two players that really deserved it this year. My vote might have gone the other way, but he was exciting to watch this season, and I really am impressed with how many snaps he does play. So, but again, for him, I seem relatively quiet. I'd be interested to go back and watch the replays and things to see, a little bit closer look at, the impact he had on the defensive side as well. And Roy Wall says, Jake is still too loose with the ball. He is. I thought he was getting better as the season went on. Until later, then it seemed like it was, he had some trouble again. But with the way the rest of the team came out and everyone played today, I thought that, a lot of other things seemed to be cleaned up, but that seemed to not be. But I give some of that credit to Colorado, because they did have a lot of that on lockdown. It felt like tonight there just were not a lot of, real open windows. It felt like, and but yeah, still he made those passes when probably shouldn't have. But he can also extend plays. I mean, that big run that he has, I think he's smart on those options with the pitch. Like, he does a great job at drawing in the defender and getting rid of the ball last second, and those often turn into big gains for us. So I still really like Jake. I think he brings a lot to the table, but yeah, you'd like it to see him clean that up a little bit. Hopefully that's something they can do in the off season. Danny Adams again says, does BYU get a top 25 preseason ranking next year based on their bowl game performance and record? Thanks for bringing that up. I think somebody else had asked that and forgot to answer it. I think based on this and with the bringing back who we're bringing back, and some of the people we've gotten from the transfer portal already, the way BYU ended the season, I think absolutely BYU should get a preseason top 25 vote, or in the polls. But again, who really knows? To try to predict what the AP is going to do, but I would think so. I think BYU's done enough this year to say, yeah, they deserve to be in the top 25. Now, how high? I don't know. I think they'll probably end this season ranked higher than they'll start next season. But we'll see. Jennifer Bonner says that was a great game, and go Cougars. Absolutely was. Thank you so much for joining, Jennifer. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everybody for watching. It was a great game. Had a blast. And okay, I got another comment here from Fisher. What is that? Omega. Who will win the Rose Bowl? Uh, well, I grew up in Michigan, and so I will never root for Ohio State or never pick Ohio State. And in a game that should be close, I mean, their first game was close. Oregon pulled it out, so I'm going to go with Oregon again. But uh, I mean, who knows? I'd imagine it's going to be another close game. Um, wouldn't rule out this Ohio State team, but yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Be interested. I'm just glad that at least they're both Big Ten teams. So um, to so they'll at least one Big Ten team will lose. But yeah, what a game! Thanks for everyone for watching. Really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, like this video so we can get out there in front of more Cougar fans and keep this conversation going. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. We'll continue to put out content. We want to do a wrap-up video, superlatives and all that good stuff on the season, and get all of our thoughts and feelings. I'll have Adam on with me, and then also continue to put out content throughout the basketball and off season. So be sure to subscribe and check out all of that. And we'll also come out with probably a little bit more thorough and thoughtful analysis on the Alamo Bowl and BYU's beatdown of Colorado. But for now, enjoy it. Enjoy the weekend. We can rest easy knowing that BYU ended the season on a strong note, and appreciate it. And as always, go Cougs.